Hi BioNerd, this is Modern Chicken Channel, where you can expand your information about all branches of biology. But before we start, please don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my Instagram. So today we're diving into a very interesting topic, which is the nervous system. The nervous system consists of the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which includes the nerves, whose function is connecting the brain and the spinal cord with the rest of the body. So the functional units that form the nervous system are called the neurons or the neural cells. There is another type of cells that are found in the central nervous system and whose function is giving support to the neurons found in the central nervous system. Those cells are called the glial cells. So we're gonna start talking about the structure of the neurons, then we'll move to the glial cells. The neuron consists of dendrites, cell body, axon, and axon terminal. The dendrites are just a series of highly branched outgrowths that are responsible of receiving information from the previous neurons. For example, in the central nervous system, each neuron or most of neurons have more than 400,000 dendrites, and that can explain how much they can increase the surface area of the neurons. That also explains why one output from the neuron represents millions of inputs to the same neuron. So now we're gonna move to the cell body. Well, most people think that cell body doesn't accept information, but only the dendrites do, which is wrong, because the cell body also receive inputs from previous neurons, but in a lower frequency. But their main function is having the organelles that are responsible of saving the life of the individual. For example, the nucleus, which include the genetic information of the individual that they need to live. It also includes a special organelle or a special thing called the nasal body, which is represented by the RDR and the ribosome, and that's what makes their function represented by protein synthesis. It also includes the mitochondria, which is responsible of ATP production. So in general, the cell body contains almost all what we need from the organelles to continue living, maybe except the centrosome. Now we will move to the axon. The axon's main function is represented by the electrical signals that move from one part of the axon to the other. So the axon includes two kinds of proteins, the kinesin and the dynein. The kinesin main function is moving mitochondria, like maybe enzymes. There are maybe enzymes, and maybe those neurotransmitters filled vesicles from the cell body to the axon terminal, and that's what we call anterograde. While the dynein main function is making the substrate move from the axon terminal to the cell body. Maybe substrates like growth factors, and recycled vesicles, maybe even toxins that are harmful, so they come back to the cell body to be modified in it. But something very bad can happen sometimes. For example, maybe a virus can come by the retrograde, which is the movement from the terminals to the cell body, retrograde. So some viruses can move in this way and reach the cell body. So they will enter the nucleus, and then the virus will just play in the nucleus, then it will form itself again and it will reproduce, and it will come back in such a way anterogradely. So now will have this virus reproduce again and again, and that will really affect the neuron, and maybe the neuron won't be as normal ones. So those two neurons, two proteins, the kinesin and the dynein, have really important functions, but they can be harmful in a case that a virus entered the neuron. Now, those electrical signals that move from one part of the axon to the other will end up releasing electrical or chemical signals called the neurotransmitters, or chemical substances, we can say, called the neurotransmitters. So here we reach the axon terminal. The axon terminal will move the vesicles that include the neurotransmitters, is responsible for the release of the neurotransmitters. So there is now a very important thing you must focus on. Here you have the neurotransmitter of the first cell, and here you have the dendrite of the second neural cell. And here we have a space between both of them. So one of the neurons is going to alter the electrical and the chemical information of the other. So the one that alters and affects the other is called the presynaptic neuron, while the one that's affected by the previous one called the postsynaptic neuron. And the space or the junction between those neurons called the synapse. It can be either chemical or electrical, and we're gonna explain the differences in the next videos. Now, after talking about the structure of the neuron from the dendrites to the axon terminals, we are going to move to the functions, the different functions of the neuron. So when we talk about the different functions, we have the afferent neurons, efferent neurons, and the enter neurons. So the afferent neurons function is conveying information toward the CNS. So it conveys information from the tissues and glands toward the CNS, while the function of the afferent neuron is conveying the information far away from the CNS. The first one function is, or the afferent neuron function is conveying information from the gland, from the tissues and organs to the CNS. The afferent neurons function, which is the second type of the neurons, is moving information or conveying information from the CNS to the effector organs like the muscle and maybe and the glands or any other effector organs. The last one, which is the interneuron. The function of the interneuron represents connecting the afferent and efferent neuron inside the CNS. So both afferent and efferent neurons are outside the CNS, while interneurons are inside of it. So it will connect afferent neurons to efferent neurons. And just for your information, the interneurons represent about more than 90% of the neurons. So just to make it clear here, each afferent neuron entering the CNS, we will see 10. Each afferent neuron entering the CNS will see 10 efferent neurons that will go outside the CNS, but we will see 200,000. Just you can imagine the number, 200,000 interneurons that will be just in the place of one afferent neuron. So you can know from that that they are the majority of the neurons. Some actions, maybe some reflexes like the knee-jerk reflex, just a moment. The knee-jerk reflex that happens after tapping under the kneecap, and that activates the muscles of the thigh. This reflex doesn't need any interneurons. The efferent and efferent neurons connect directly when we talk about the knee-jerk reflex, while actions like smelling or hitting something that reminds you to someone you know before needs more than millions of interneurons. So you can imagine just the differences between the knee-jerk reflex and reminding something by smelling or by hearing. They really differ. So now, in general, those interneurons will connect with each other by blood vessels and connective tissues, and they will finally form the nerve. So the nerve consists of multiple neurons that are connected by blood vessels and by connective tissues. That's all. We'll talk about glial cells in the next video. Don't forget to follow me and to subscribe just to have more information about neurology and about biology in general. Thanks really for watching. And do so as we please. Come along with me to a cliff under a tree where we can gaze upon the water as an everlasting dream.